right, hello, everybody. Welcome back. This is The Sifting, Reclaiming Authenticity. Today is episode number 59, which means we're one away from 60. That's pretty cool. Um,
If you're not good at math,
yeah, if you aren't good at math,
there's that for you.
it's all right. I'm not either, really. Although I think if I took math now, as opposed to when I was in high school, I think that I would be a lot better at it. I think that my mind is kind of, I don't know, it understands I know how to take a concept and apply it more, and I know how to kind of translate something into a way that I might understand. Anyway,
But they made math easier now.
that's true. Yeah, math is easy mode now. It was well, never mind. I won't get into it. Anyway, I'm not good at math, but I think I would be if I took math classes over again now. Anyway, my name is Jonah. You're probably wondering if you're listening to this for the first time, did I tune into a calculus podcast? You did not. You tuned into The Sifting, Reclaiming Authenticity. And I'm here with my wife, Lindsay. Lindsay, how's it going today?
Cold.
It is cold. It is really, really, really cold outside. We're in the middle of, well, I shouldn't say we're in the middle. We are at the very early stages of this big winter storm that's about to hit. So when you're listening to it, the catastrophe will have passed. But we're on the brink of it right now. So we're just sitting at home, being cozy, chilling out, not going anywhere, recording The Sifting. So I'm excited to be here today. This is our last episode for a little while. If you've listened for a while, you know that we do 9 or 10 episodes, and then we go on a break for a little while. It helps us mentally to just kind of get away from it, get some, well, that sounded bad, get away from it. Helps us to take a little break. It helps us to come up with new ideas for topics that we can discuss, for things that we can talk about that we think are interesting, that we think are pertinent, and that we think we're knowledgeable enough to have discussions on. So we'll be back at some point. We don't know when yet, but stay tuned to our social media and you will know when we come back. So we're on Facebook, Instagram. That's probably where we'll end up announcing it when we do come back. So I'm not exactly sure yet. As always, you can listen to us on YouTube or Spotify. Lots of you like to listen while you're in the car, shoveling snow, trying to get your kids to sleep. I don't know. So we appreciate however you interact with us, however you engage with us. We love when people comment, when they share, when they like, subscribe, all of that good stuff. We appreciate the engagement. We appreciate people being invested in what we have to say, and it's a blessing to be able to talk and have our voices go out into the interwebs. We're just two normal people, but we like talking about this stuff. We think that we have a decent amount of knowledge in this sort of subject material, and we just enjoy talking. I mean, this is a
We do.
we enjoy talking about this sort of thing, is what I mean. We like having discussions. We like getting into the weeds of things. And so that's what this podcast is all about. So if it's your first time listening to us, thanks for showing up. Or if it's your 59th time listening to us, thank you for being one of the loyal few that was there at the beginning when we had a banana stand or a banana rack for a microphone holder. Those were good days. Those were, what do they call it? Quaint beginnings? Small beginnings? Something like that. Anyway.
Humble beginning.
Humble beginnings. That's right. So we're recording this on Sunday before this snowstorm hits. Just hoping that everybody comes out of it safely. Be very careful if you're out driving in it, as always. Try to stay home if you can. We'll get through it. I mean, we're at the beginning of January, and we probably have another snowstorm awaiting us in the future at some point. But hey, we are gonna be okay. We're in 2025, so I hope everybody had a great Christmas and a great New Year. New Year, You don't have any resolutions, do you? You're not really a resolutions person. I'm not either. I'm not. I'm not the kind of. I always approach New Year's resolutions and I think to myself, you can do this at any time. I mean, starting something at the beginning of the year is great, but really, I mean, if I want to start something new, I'm thinking of any time being a good time to do that. And so, that's interesting. That look at that ad. That is so weird. Anyway, I saw an ad on our computer that just it's weird. Have you noticed how ridiculous some ads have gotten? Like I'll show you when I'm on like an app or on a website, and I'll be like, Lindsay, look at this ad. Like, look how hilarious and how ridiculous that looks. And it's just purely like, I don't know. I read an article a while back about advertisements and how ads are just how they're processed and how they're done on websites nowadays being so much different than they used to be. I mean, I feel like I can't go to a website now without just being blasted with like all these ads that are like life hack, put an ice cube on top of your car and like just weird stuff like that. Anyway, weird side tangent, I guess. Lindsay got me this great gift for Christmas. She got us tickets to go and see the music of Harry Potter by the Cincinnati Symphony Orchestra. And we went to do that last night. And it was so great. It was such a great time. We had a blast. Getting to see like a part of the city that we're not used to seeing was super cool. I'm a music nerd. I have been a music nerd for a long time, since middle school. And so getting to go to the Cincinnati Music Hall is always wonderful. It's a beautiful building. Kind of looks. I told Lindsay last night, it kind of looks like American Hogwarts, if you look at it from an angle. But no, it was awesome. Cincinnati Symphony Orchestra is always amazing. And I told Lindsay this yesterday. Movie music is so great because for me, I learned to grow an appreciation for classical music when I was in middle school and high school and just further on into college. And still today, I have an appreciation for that music, but I know not everybody does. A lot of people just find it old and antiquated and they don't quite understand how to listen to it and how to appreciate it. So I think movie music is cool because a lot of that music falls into that category, and it helps bring in new audiences. You know, not everybody will go to see CSO do, you know, a Beethoven symphony, but lots of people will go and see them do music from a movie that they love. And so it's a great way of kind of bringing people in and helping show them what classical music can be and giving them an appreciation for that. So that was super cool. Music and movies, they're just a great way to connect to people, I guess. Did you enjoy it, Lindsay?
Mm-hmm.
You did, right? You're not quite the Potterhead that I am, but I'm glad that you still liked it. It was so funny. They were doing trivia last night, and of course, people going to this concert are going to be, you know, for the most part, really big Harry Potter fans, and so they did like a trivia. And I joked with Lindsay because I was like, these are the easiest trivia questions for like Harry Potter fans. I think everybody got every single one of them right. And they were super easy. And then they just went up to like a 10 or an 11 at one point. And they were like, how many pages is in the 2014 UK version of Prisoner of Azkaban? I think it was. And the person that was closest to the page count ended up winning. And I was like, that escalated super fast. So, yeah. So now I've been thinking of like good trivia for Harry Potter. And Lindsay's probably being driven crazy by me because every now and then I'll be like, here's another great trivia question, like something really deep in the lore that, only hardcore fans would know. Anyway, it was really fun. It was a blast. So thank you, Lindsay, for the Christmas gift. That was
You're welcome.
It was super nice of you.
And I'm over here like, Master has given Dobby a sock.
That's right.
I say that every time my dog steals one of my socks.
Master
Fun
has
fact.
given Dobby a sock. Master has given Toffee a sock.
Toffee kind of looks like Dobby.
She does. Yeah, she could. Oh, that's so funny. When they...
Her ears.
So there are... I know we need to get to the episode, but there are people on Reddit who are posting castings for the upcoming Harry Potter HBO show, which I think most fans are just waiting with bated breath to see what is going to happen with that. But people are like, hey, this person would be great as this. This person would be great as this character. So I should post a picture of Toffee. I should be like, my dog would make a great Dobby. She receives her sock, and she's just as happy as Dobby when she gets a sock. Okay. All right, now to the meat and potatoes of why we're here. I'm never going to use that analogy again. I'm never going to say that again.
Thanks.
Okay, you're welcome. Today, we want to talk a little bit about vision. Now, we've talked about vision in the past, but it's one of those topics that I think it's something that you're learning more and more about, and it's something that you see differently from different angles as you get older, I think. So I think I've learned a lot about vision since the last time we talked about it on this podcast, and I hope that we can kind of bring some fresh insight into how we view vision, maybe how we view it differently than we used to, and just seeing it from a different perspective. And the reason I wanted to do this is because we've talked so much lately about Bible stuff and theology, and all of that's great and good, but we haven't done like a leadership centric discussion for a little while. So when I think about leadership topics that are on my mind right now, I'm kind of thinking about vision, because beginning of a new year, every church, it's like they have this fresh new vision for the year, and sometimes it's like a word that rhymes with like 23, 24, 25 or whatever. That's like the popular thing now. But it's like every year at this time, churches kind of get established in this fresh new vision. And I think that's great. And it just gives me ideas about what vision even is. Lindsay, I thought about this today. Tell me, what do you, and I meant to tell this to you earlier, but I'm telling it to you now. So next year is 2026. What do you think is going to be the popular word for like a church vision in 26? Because like 25 has a lot of like, churchy words that rhyme with that, I feel like. What do you think 26 is going to be? Because I was sitting today and thinking about that. And I was like, I don't even know what would rhyme with 26. Can you think of anything?
I don't know.
You don't know?
You've been sitting and thinking about it, and I haven't come up with anything.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know, but I'm like, what are what are churches going to do when they get to like 2026? What's like the hot word going to be? Because 2025, it felt easy to guess some of them, but
Fix in 26.
fix 26. we're gonna fix everything wrong in 2026. I don't know. That's weird to think about. I was just thinking to myself today, what rhymes with 26? I don't know. I guess we'll find out when we get there. So 2026, that's weird to think about. That's gonna be here faster than you know it, though. So I want to talk a little bit about vision. I think that when I think of great leaders, and when I think about qualities of great leaders, I think there's endless things that make a leader great. I think you can name any one of any one of many qualities or characteristics that make somebody a great leader. But I think there's one that you could potentially argue as being more important than others. And I think that is probably vision. You know, it's super clear to me from scripture and from real life examples as well, that if you don't have vision in anything, it's like health, internal health deteriorates. And that's in the scripture. It's in Proverbs 29:18, where it's written, where there is no vision, people perish. And that's a simple verse, but there's a lot packed into it. And there's a lot of consequence in that verse. If you have vision, if you have a proper vision, people flourish. But if you do not have vision, people perish. And I think there are reasons for that. But it's not only true in Scripture, it's just true in every area of life. You see that reflected. Think of a company who has a CEO who has no 5-year outline. They don't know where they're going. They don't know where they want to end up. They don't know what their company looks like in 5 years or what they want it to look like in 5 years. And everyone underneath them is going to suffer tremendously for that because they don't have a clear vision of the future. And I'm not talking like mystical vision of the future. I'm just thinking practically, theoretically. Where do you want like your company? Where do you want your organization to be in 5 years? And if you can't answer that question, then you have to be prepared for a lot of people to suffer. If you're a CEO, if you're somebody who's in that position, think about it. If there's no vision, you have like higher up and middle tier people who don't know what to train people for. They don't have anything to reach for. They don't know why they're doing the things that they're doing. They don't know how to inspire confidence among their people because they don't know where things are going. There's a lot of uncertainty, and it doesn't inspire confidence in them. And then the people under them don't feel confident either. Think about people who aren't even managers or higher up people. They come to work for that company not knowing why they're doing what they're doing, which is a pathway to disaster. We're going to talk about in a minute the question of why, and we're going to talk about finding a why, and why is the most important thing relating to vision. People come to work or people come to volunteer in church, and if they don't know why they're doing it, if they don't have like a vision to follow, if they don't have a vision to see the future and see what other people around them are building towards, to see what they're a part of that benefits everyone around them, but also benefits them as well. If they can't see that, then I think you're on a treacherous path to a lot of burnout. And I think that's where it all leads. When you have no vision, you experience physical, mental, and spiritual burnout by a lot of people. Now, some people can work really hard if they know where they're going, and that's the thing. If they know what the end goal is, they will work much harder. They will be motivated. They will kind of approach what they do every day with a renewed sense of vigor and a renewed sense of excitement. Think about somebody who is building a shed, and they don't have like a blueprint for what this shed is and its final product is supposed to look like. Well, some people, a very small amount of people are going to be talented enough to start hammering things together and start drilling and start cutting, and they are going to be talented enough to make a shed out of that. But most people, if they don't have a final image of what they're working towards, of what the final product should look like, they're not going to have any motivation to continue with that, because they don't know how. They don't know if what they're doing is contributing to that final vision. It's very easy when you're looking at a blueprint to look back at the work you've already done and be like, this doesn't look like this. What did I do wrong? I need to go backtrack and figure it out. You can't do that if you have no vision. And so ultimately, people can't course correct as well. People can't make corrections. They can't make changes if there's no vision to base the requirements off of, right? We can't make a change if we don't know what we need to be making a change to, essentially. Is what I'm saying making sense so far? So when you have no vision, it just leads to burnout in every area of life. And burnt out people are the worst thing that I think you could ever want. Because burnout people, if they don't just flat out quit what they do ridiculous things. They do things that they would never do otherwise. They do things that they wouldn't do in their right mind. A lot of people, there's like a new thing, but it's not a new thing. People have always been doing it. There's this thing that burnout people are doing called quiet quitting. Have you heard of this? Yeah. It's a thing called quiet quitting, where they come to their position and they do what they're told, but they aren't going to do anything more than just the minimum amount. They show up, they do their thing, they go home. You can't ask them to do anything other than that. And they're not willing to help with anything other than that. And we call those people lazy, and that's like what we've called them for years. And there's this new name that's been given to them. It's called quiet quitting. And I'm like, sure, quiet quitting has a personal element to it, but I think the other side of the coin is that the vision is not clear enough for them to be motivated to have something to strive towards and to have something to work towards. So quiet quitters are usually people that just can't see the vision, and they don't know where they're going. They just kind of feel like they're showing up, spinning their wheels, and going home. And eventually you look and you say, I come every day and I work so hard, and I do this and I do that, and I feel like I'm juggling 10 plates at once, and I don't even know what the end product is for this. And I don't know what I'm working towards. I don't see an end in sight. And so they just stop doing anything other than the bare minimum, because they say, I'm not gonna put all this work, all this energy, all this effort into something if I don't know where it's going. So that's a big thing that burnout people do, and that's a thing that's happening a lot in churches and organizations today. Quiet quitting. So people being burnout, I think, is the worst possible thing that you could want. And I think if somebody says that they're burnout, I think what good leaders should do is they need to do whatever it takes to help that person find vision again. And I know that sounds like ethereal. That sounds like a really pie in the sky kind of idea, but it's not at all. Some people need to. They just need to find a fresh vision for why they're doing what they're doing. And if you can't help those people answer that, if you can't help those people find that, I just think that I just think you're in trouble, because those people ultimately are not going to last. And those people are going to end up burning themselves so out that they do something dumb or do something stupid, or they just quit entirely. So that's why I think vision is important. That's why I think that the health of a team or the health of an organization or the health of a church is deeply reliant upon the vision. When the scripture says, where there's no vision, people perish, that should be taken literally. Again, not just by church leaders, but by leaders everywhere. Maybe like you just lead a small team at your work of 3 to 4 people. But if those 3 to 4 people don't have a clear vision for what you guys are doing, you're going to end up with 3 or 4 burnt out people, and you're just not going to be able to do too much with that. Okay. Before we go any further, Lindsay, do you have any comments, any, I won't say like additional information. Do you have any like commentary on anything that we've talked about so far? Why do you think, in your opinion, vision is so important?
It's like an essay question. Do I get multiple choice?
It's short answer, I guess.
Because without it, the people perish.
Okay, that worked. But you've seen, in the things that you do, in ministries that you've been a part of, you've seen how like people can get burnt out. Like I know we've both seen that, right? You've seen how people can lose passion, people can lose a sense of direction for what they do. And would you say that's based off of not having a vision? Would you think that it's based off something else, or would you just attribute that to like a lack of vision, which makes them feel that way?
Yeah. Or there could even be a vision, but if it's not communicated properly, like people can suffer. And I've seen burnout in 2 different directions. Like just in the church and in the workforce. I kind of see burnout go in 2 directions, where they're used too much, or like too much is asked of them, or not enough is asked of them. Like they want to do more and they're not given that trust. I find that like both of those roads can lead to burnout and quiet quitting and just literally quitting. And both of those come from, like you said, a lack of the overall vision getting to those people. Even if there is one, that like you can see a vision for your team or your organization as a whole, but if you can't convey it to like kind of your vision builders, then it's almost just as useless to have one.
Yeah. I almost feel like anybody who is involved in any way needs to have like a clear view of what the vision is. Even like, I don't know, if you're a church and you're having like a church service and you're saying, here's our vision for the year, I feel like the person who's cleaning the sanctuary after the service is done should have a clear idea of the vision. I feel like the person who is like cleaning the toilets should have an idea of what the vision is and should have an understanding, just as much as like the leaders do. I don't know, do you kind of feel like that too? Like, or else you can get so burnt out cleaning the sanctuary that you ask yourself, why am I even doing this? I'm just spinning my wheels. Do you think that, like, this is off topic, but do you think that churches should pay certain volunteers if they're going to ask them to go, like, to go extremely above, like, what is reasonable for like their time and their ability. I think that line, that's a gray area, but we always say like, you should do it out of love for the Lord, and you should do it to serve the church. And I'm not denying that, you need to do it with the correct heart and the correct attitude. But I do kind of feel at times that when you're asking so much of somebody above what is reasonable, I kind of feel like they should be compensated for that. I don't know. What do you think?
I have a weird thing with compensation in churches in general. Like, a lot of churches, if you don't know, like, their staff are usually off, like, on a Friday or a Monday or whatever, because they're like, Sunday is one of our work days. And I'm like, you do realize that your volunteers are working 40, 60, 80 hours a week. And then you expect them to come in uncompensated on Sunday.
Right.
And do just as many, like, hours as your staff are doing. So I'm weird when it comes to that. I don't know. I think it's a really question. Blurry line what should be compensated and what shouldn't.
Yeah, that's a tough question, huh? I don't know, because every it's like every situation is different, and so you don't know. And like you said, some people are working like 60 hours a week, and
I've known people that are coming off of third shift to be at their volunteer position at the church, and then the church staff taking like a Friday off. Just, it does rub me the wrong way.
Interesting. Yeah, I get what you mean. And sometimes, like, we look at that person who gets off third shift and shows up to, like, do something, and they just kind of get a pat on the back and say, wow, you're so faithful. And it's like, great. But, like, can I have something a little more because I'm, like, going... I don't know. It's different for everybody, like we said. I don't know, just an interesting thing that just popped into my mind.
Yeah, that's a very gray area that I don't feel qualified to comment on.
Sure. I get that.
I just have my opinion.
I get that. Yeah, I'm definitely. I think if you're like in that position and you're making those decisions, that's got to be very difficult. Like, yeah. Anyway, I think a vision revolves around one thing. And, I mean, it can be multiple things. Vision can consist of multiple things, sure. But at its core is one thing. At least in my opinion. What is your why? If you can't answer the question, why do you do this? You are headed for trouble. One time I was in a rehearsal for a church service. And we were in rehearsal, and somebody was in the room who, I was on drums, and somebody else went up, somebody who was a camera operator went up to one of the other musicians on stage. And the musician that they went up to talked to them, and they said, hey, what made you want to do this? And I didn't even hear what the camera operator said in response to that person. But I heard the question. And I thought to myself, we don't ask that question enough, do we? What made you want to do this? Why do you show up here to do this? You could do anything with your time. I mean, you could do anything. You don't have to be doing this. What makes you want to be here? Like, what makes you want to be involved in this? And I feel like if you can't answer that question, why do you do this, about anything in your life, you could potentially be headed for burnout. And what we choose to spend our time and energy on, it needs a why that matters to us and that drives us. You know, a lot of like career experts have presented this idea and they've presented this topic as a solution to burnout, and they've presented it as a solution to like organizations or teams that don't have any vision. They don't know where they're going. So everything we do needs a why that matters to us. So we need to be able to answer the question, why do I show up for work every day, for instance? And here's an example of a why that does not drive us. I show up to work because my family just needs the money. That's not a driving force at all. That's not a driving why. That is a why, but it's not a good one. That doesn't keep anybody, employed. That doesn't keep anybody engaged. Just wanting to show up and get a paycheck so your family can eat that week. That's admirable, sure. Go ahead.
I feel like in the generations before ours, that was like the driving force for especially like men was, we're going for a paycheck and we're going to go above and beyond to make my family as comfortable as possible, and then their kids like barely knew them.
Yeah.
And that was the like driving force for generations and generations. And I mean, a lot of people who were kids during that time are like, I didn't really know my dad. I didn't know anything about him. He was never there. And I feel like our generation has really steered away from that as a motivation, which is why we have so much like quiet quitting and just, like family is much more of a motivating force, like being there and knowing them, than like working to have buku money in the bank.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's like people our age and younger than us, they want something more from like their job, and I don't want to say that like generations prior to us didn't want that as well, but I think us and the younger generations are much more vocal about it, and we're a lot more insistent on like change happening to create that kind of world, to create that kind of environment. So yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I see your point in that. It's absolutely true.
And your vision kind of has to like change with that overall motivation. Like CEOs and managers that still have that mindset of like, this is it. You should want to be here. Like, you should want to hide from your family in the office for as long as you possibly can. Like, you should be driven to be here no matter if you're going to run your car off the road in the snow. Because, like, work is it. This is what you're meant to do. Like, that's such an outdated mindset that people do not just cannot align themselves with that vision, and it makes it ineffective.
Yeah.
Entirely ineffective.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully, as the years go on, that starts to change. As like millennials and Gen Z start to take on like the higher leadership positions in churches or in like organizations. Hopefully that'll start to change, because then they can morph and they can create the kind of world that they have always been longing for. So I don't know. We'll see how that changes as time goes by. But what is a why that matters? A why that matters, I think, looks like this. I show up to work every day because I've been able to find the passion in what I do. It may not be what I want to do forever, but I've been able to find a passion in this. I've been able to find the growth that I can experience in this, and that's what keeps me going. That is a why that can carry people through periods of burnout. That's a why that can carry people through and help them to get continuously better and better. Why do I show up for church? A poor answer to that question is because I'm a Christian. A better answer to that question is because I show up here for my spiritual growth. I show up here to learn. I show up here because every time I'm here, just by being here, I get a little bit spiritually stronger. And that helps morph me, and that helps mold me into the person that, into a fully fledged, or it gets me closer and closer to a life that looks more like Christ. It gets me closer to aligning with his purpose for what he desires me to look like and the life that he's gifted me with. That's a why that actually keeps people coming to church, I think. Not just showing up because you're a Christian and because your family attended this church for 15, 20 years, but actually having some sort of vested interest in personal growth, I think, is a good why for people. Why do I choose to serve my spouse and my kids every day? A poor why is because I'm required to do that. By law and by scripture, I'm just kind of required to show up for them every day. That's a poor why. A better why is because I know that my joy is found in serving my family, not being served by them. And that's a why that will carry you through. I serve these people because I love them. I serve them because I want a good life for them. I want them to come home. I want them to feel safe in their home. And I want us to feel safe and loved and cherished as a family unit. Why do I spend time on the hobbies that I do? A poor why is because they are a waste of time. Wait a minute. I read that wrong. Anyway, I think I wrote that wrong. A good why for enjoying hobbies is because life is about enjoying ourselves and immersing ourselves in the things that connect with us, the things that help us grow, the things that interest us. So every leader, I think, needs to have a why. Why do you do the things that you do? And everyone around them needs to have one too. Without a why, people are just headed towards nothing. And that's not inspiring to anyone. Like we've talked about several times already. It just leads people to a place of burnout. If the leader can't establish a why, nobody under them is going to be able to as well. And so I think leaders need to find their why first, and then the people around them need to as well, and then everyone else, it kind of trickles down. It's a really big concept in the world of creating vision, I think, is finding a why. And I heard, it was interesting as I was preparing this script. I was listening to a post-game locker room celebration by the Minnesota Vikings off their last game. And it was interesting. I don't even know how I came across this. It was on YouTube or whatever. But I checked it out. I watched it. And the coach came in and he looked at everybody, all these players in the room, and he said, "You guys are my why." And I thought that was awesome because I'm that's a solid leader. That's a leader who has a why, why he shows up to, pour 80, 90, 100-hour work weeks into his job and, find success with, those men and those players that are under him. And so I thought that was really cool. So everybody needs to have a why. I think if any area, bringing it to a personal level, I think I'm trying to think of the right way to say it. I think a good exercise for us all to do is to establish like a time budget. And what I mean by that is like taking all of the activities that you do, taking all the priorities that you have, writing them all down, and um, asking yourself for each one, what's my why? Why do I do this? Why do I do that? And if we can't answer why we do something, I think we should be challenged to examine whether or not we should keep that thing. I don't know. If we can't find a why, I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that. We shouldn't feel guilty about that. But we should question why we continue to do it. No pun intended. I kind of wish that, like, I think that some churches have had to have done something like this recently in the past, like, 5 years or so. Because I feel like, especially a lot of larger churches, have just completely scaled back on doing the extra services in the middle of the week. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of large churches just do their main services, and a lot of them are so large that they can't do just one anymore. They have to do 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, however many they need to do. And when I think as they have grown, they've had to have looked in the mirror and said, okay, we need to have like a shift of priorities. We need to have we need to re-examine, why we do the things that we do. Because, like, you only have so many people, I think. You only have so much energy. You only have so much manpower that you can give into something. And so, a lot of these churches have, like, just scaled to be only their main service. And then maybe, like, a youth service or a young adult service. But you don't see a lot of, like, extra services or extra ministries happening throughout the week like you used to. And that makes me think that a lot of churches have just kind of like looked at some things and said like, hey, this may have worked at one point in the past. This may have worked for a season, but it's time for this thing to get the axe. And sometimes, like, axing something out of no bad will, I think is a gateway to maybe great success, because all that energy that was going into that one thing can now be put into something else. I don't know. Do you have any opinions on that? Just like, I don't know, managing time better and finding out like, hey, what needs to stay versus like what needs to go.
Yeah. I mean, like, your vision needs to like scale to the size of what you're working with. I don't know if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, if you're thinking about a pyramid, like, kind of the broadness of your vision needs to be cast to the size of what's under you. So it's like people at the top can't just worry anymore about like what benefits them. Like, the vision can't be increase my bottom line or increase the amount of people coming to this church. It has to be how, like, what changes can I make so that the entire structure thrives. And yeah, if you're thinking of like, you just want more people and you're trying to throw out like as big of a net as possible just because your vision is more people, and Rather, you could kind of, using this metaphor, cut some of the net, but put it where there are more fish
Mm-hmm.
and focus the manpower on that area,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to have more success than just being really small minded about, like, I want this benefit for me. Like, to how can the people all the way down this structure best manage where we want to go?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that makes sense.
That does make sense. Absolutely. Agree with you 100%. And it's just all about manpower, priorities, energy. And there's nothing wrong with being like, hey, this worked at one point and it's just not working anymore and it needs to go because this other thing is working. And like, if we can put people here, if we can put energy here, then that's going to make this thing that's working be even better. You know what I mean? And so it's like, there's a lot of freedom found in releasing priorities. That's like a really, that's a good thing to kind of like get to the closure of this with, I think. There's a lot of freedom in releasing priorities. Like I said earlier, I think it's worth all of our times to do a time budget on the kinds of things that are eating up our time. And if there's something that's in our lives that we're like, you know what, I don't really know why I'm doing this anymore. I was doing it at this time or at this point because of this reason. There was like a good reason for me to do it. I was getting something out of it, but you know what? I'm just not really anymore. There's no shame in, putting the axe to that neck in a way. That's a gruesome analogy. Wow. But by doing that, you can just pour more into something else in your life that's actually working. There's a lot of freedom and release, and I think that's what a lot of people need, especially people that are like suffering from being super stressed out or super burnt out or just spinning their wheels constantly. It's like, surely there's something that you can release. There's something that you can let go of. Even if it's something that is important. I think something that a lot of churches do that are smart to do is like delegate that thing. Give it to somebody else. Find somebody else who is able to take on that priority. Find someone else who that priority benefits and is going to be able to do that with the heart and the talent and the time necessary. So, and it's all of it is to supplement vision on like a personal level, but also a corporate level. There's a lot of freedom in releasing and freeing up yourself to do the kinds of things that matter most. I don't know. So I did have one other thing here that I wanted to mention. How exactly can you define vision? Well, I think it can be summed up like this. Vision is the belief, I didn't get this from anywhere, I just thought of this. Vision is the belief that not only is the future good, but we are the ones who can fulfill that. Vision is able to see that there are better days ahead, and it encourages others to see that as well. It's the belief that, where we are now might be good, but where we could be is even better. Where we are now may not be good, but I can see a future where we do get to a good place. I think that this is like so true in marriage, especially like with a lot of married couples. That they find themselves in the place where it just doesn't feel good, and they find themselves in the place where, um, there's just like no good around. Well, what's like the first step, I think, in solving that problem? I think that both people need to have a clear vision, saying, "Hey, it may not be good now, but here's what it could be. If we work on it, if we work to make our home a little bit better, if we work to make our lives, personal lives, just a little bit better, here's what we could have." And I think that can be a driving force in solving a lot of marriage issues happening today. So vision is able to see that there are better days ahead, and it encourages other people to see it as well. So obviously, I think it goes hand in hand that good leaders are people who are full of vision, whether it be in the church, a workplace, a community, or just a family unit. Leaders are always able to see vision, and they can communicate that, and they can make other people feel that as well. I wrote down here, good leaders can be people who have vision for their families. And, I would say that I wrote down here, I came up with this term for it, family visionaries. And that's, saying it now, I'm not a big fan of that. But, never mind. That's not a good term. But people who have like a vision for their family, I think I respect those people the most in our society. People who have a vision for like what their family can be should really be commended. And I think that's because real change in our world today begins at a family level, and then it moves outward. A lot of the problems that we suffer from as a society, they all just go back to their core, to being like family issues, problems at home that have kind of spread outward. And so I think smart people know that if they can get a good vision for their family down, they're going to benefit everything else in their life, and they're going to benefit the other people that they're around because their family is healthy. And so I commend people who are leaders in their families, and that can be like a husband, a wife, a single parent, anybody who is in that position of being a leader for their family, I think is really important. So that's just about all I have. Lindsay, do you have any comments, anything that you'd like to talk about to finish it up?
I guess you can't just have vision and like everything will go great. Mm-hmm. Like it has to be aligned and passed. Like using the family analogy, like if a mom and dad are in the same house and they haven't communicated like the vision for different parts of their kids' lives, there's going to be issues. Mm-hmm. Of like the dad being like, it's time to study, and the mom's like, oh no, like I told them they could play. And you haven't established, like you haven't aligned on what the vision is. There's going to be like headbutting there. Like the vision, like if you've ever been to the eye doctor, which I think most people probably have, when they're like putting the little lenses down and they're like, how's it look now? What can you read? It's if the correct lenses aren't aligned in the right way, you still don't see the thing. And like you talked about earlier, where this is especially true in churches, but I feel like it's also true in a lot of companies that unwillingness to like cut people loose when they are almost unwilling to like align with the vision. Like I've seen so many cases of a leader saying like this is what we're aiming for and this is what we're gonna do, and the person like a step down from them is like, okay dad, and just keeps doing their own thing. Like what they're doing is simply like promoting what they want to see, is promoting their agenda, and is not aligned with the vision that they're supposed to be carrying. And we've got to get in a place where we're willing to cut those people loose, because your vision stops with them if they're not willing to carry it. And kind of continuing off of that, the ability to kind of once the vision has been passed on, like you have to be able to trust those under you to carry it out. And while we have to be willing to let go of people who are just entirely unwilling to carry your vision, you also have to, you can't have such a tight fist about how it's carried out that you mess it up and you micromanage the whole thing into the dirt. Because you can't manage all the way down the structure. Nobody is capable of it. Like you don't have a CEO coming down every day to the plant floor to see that how things are going with Deborah. Like it just like leaders don't have the capability. So you have to allow those under you to carry out your vision the way they see it, and trust that it will like translate well and everything will line up to like carry it down the line. I don't know if that all makes sense.
Yeah, that does. Absolutely. So you're almost kind of viewing it like a funnel in a way. Like everyone has to have a clear idea of the vision, and it stops at whoever can align with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
interesting.
like you have to be clear about what the vision is, but you can't like grip the process so tight that it can't get through your fingers and out to the rest of your organization, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely, that does. I feel like it has to permeate every part. You know what I mean?
You have to allow the people under you to carry it. For them to carry it, like you have to put it in their hands. And they have to be people that you can trust. No matter which way they choose to do it, that you can trust that it will continue and like make it down to those under them.
Absolutely. Well, that's a great way to end it, I think. Thank you for your thoughts on that. That's really good. Yeah, this was a really awesome topic to talk about. I'm glad we did this today. Sometimes doing, like, I know we've talked about vision before, but, you know, with time, I don't know. I feel like I see things differently, and with time, I feel like I see things in different lights and from different angles, and it's just interesting to kind of rethink, review a topic, and see how we think about it now, how we might view it now, as opposed to how we might have, a year, 2 years, however long ago. So, yeah, this was awesome. I'm really glad that we did this today. So let's pray and we'll be out of here. Lord, we just thank you for bringing me and Lindsay together today to have a great discussion on this topic, to really dig in and find out what vision is, and how vision can permeate the people around us, how vision can permeate our environment, how it can give us a why. And we just pray for all the people listening. Maybe someone heard this today and they are feeling burnout, they are feeling stressed, they are feeling overwhelmed, and they need to find some vision for their personal life. We just hope and pray that this time here, this episode, this short discussion, Lord, would be something that ministers to them, that touches them, and that blesses their life. And we pray it all in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Guys, thank you so much for joining us for today's episode of The Sifting, and the last 10 episodes that we've done. Like I said, we're going to go on a hiatus for a little while. We will still be here. We'll be thinking of cool ideas, cool things to talk about. And when we come back, we'll have all sorts of stuff that I'm sure we'll be really eager to discuss and really eager to talk about. So, guys, thank you for listening. Stay safe in the snow and the craziness, and we'll see how it looks outside when we leave here. All right. Goodbye.